that he will help to save by July of this year. I'm privileged tonight to pass on the torch to a very deserving man. His impact has reached so many lives, both dogs and cats. Peter, aka the knee guy, has been a highly respected orthopedic surgeon in Jackson, Wyoming for over 30 years. After a tragic personal loss changed the direction of his life, taking him from physician to animal rescuer. Peter's been a licensed pilot since the age of 16, so I think I would be really comfortable flying with him. With the assistance of Doyle, a black lab that he and his beloved wife Meg had rescued, he decided that helping to rescue animals would be his new mission. Hence the beginning of Dog Is My CoPilot, or better known as DIMC. And DIMC's mission is to fly animals from areas where animals are not wanted in overcrowded shelters to areas where they're in high demand. He flies from 20 source shelters where the animals are in danger of being euthanized because of lack of space, to some 62 receiving animal rescue organizations where these animals are likely to be adopted. The Humane Society of Western Montana is among one of the incredible receiving organizations and has become one of DMIC's frequent stops. And I've personally been at the airport when the plane flies in and the animals get off, and it's such an amazing experience. His route covers the Rocky Mountains and Pacific regions with 2 airplanes, a Cessna 206 and a Cessna 208B. He flies from 40 to, get this, 200 animal co-pilots on each flight. Peter says he's most relaxed when he's flying, and it sounds like the dogs may be too. The dogs bark like crazy when they first get in and they're being loaded, but they settle down as soon as they hear the roar of the engine. They somehow seem to know that they are safe and flying off to a better life with love and caring for their future. And I want to personally thank Peter because I am the proud parent of a 60-pound California Little. And he has changed our life. He's wonderful. And thanks to Peter, our lives are enriched with our little digger. So I think we're going to show a video now of a little bit more about Peter.
Hi, I'm Peter Rourke. I'm the president and pilot of Dog Is My CoPilot. Did you know that there are 8 million animals in shelters around the country? These shelters are completely overrun with overpopulation, owner surrenders, and strays. They have 3 options to take care of these animals. Either adopt them out, transport them to other facilities that will accept them, or sadly euthanasia. And that means 1 animal in this country is killed every 3 seconds. And these are otherwise healthy and adoptable animals. Ground transport just doesn't make sense when you fill a van with 30 or 40 animals and you drive them 16 or 18 hours. That's just tough on everybody. And that's the service that Dog Is My CoPilot provides. We provide the long distance transport where ground transport just doesn't make sense. And we can fly up to 130 animals at a time to the facilities that will never put down a healthy animal. If you take anything away from this, if you are a pet owner, please spay and neuter. If you're not, please go by your local shelter and adopt an animal. If you can't adopt an animal, then foster one. If you can't foster one, then volunteer at the shelter and help them out. If you can't volunteer, then donate. Donate to your local shelter. Donate to Dog Is My CoPilot. We're a nonprofit. We never charge the senders. We never charge the receivers for our long-distance transport services. You can visit our website, www.dogcopilot.org, and there you'll find a link where you can donate to our organization. All donations are tax deductible. Thank you for your time.
So those were just a very small snippet of some dogs that Peter has flown to here to Missoula. So I am so privileged to announce the 2018 Ken Shughart Humanitarian Award to Dr. Peter Rourke. If you would come up.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, sorry about the selfie, but I just had a memorialize this moment. I can't tell you how honored I am. I mean, I'm just one small piece of the puzzle, and we all try to do our best, and then to be recognized tonight for the efforts. I mean, I am incredibly humbled by this, so thank you very much. So, as Ronnie was saying, I grew up always thinking I'd be a pilot, and soloed on my 16th birthday, got my license on my 17th. But when I went off to college, I found the sciences, and so that kind of lit a fire in me. I had a chance to go to medical school and then specialize in orthopedics and hand and knee surgery, and practice for 30 years or so in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And it was incredibly rewarding. And I would occasionally do flights for an organization called Pilots and Paws, which is a web-based organization where they match a pilot and a dog that needs to be transported. And I did a couple of those flights, but I found that it's incredibly inefficient where you can fly 5 or 6 hours transporting one dog. Now, I will say for that one dog, it's a game changer, all right? But you can spend a lot of resources saving that. And then on a couple of flights, I was transporting animals that were going to be used for breeding purposes, and I thought, I need to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So after my wife suddenly passed, I decided that that's what I was going to do, and I made every mistake in the book trying to figure out how to transport animals efficiently. And it wasn't until I met a woman, Sharon Lohman, in Merced, California, who was running a facility that was suffering from 96 or 94% euthanasia rate. They were killing 94% of all dogs came through the door. So, and they were desperate to transport these animals. And they would put them in a van, they would drive them to Salt Lake City, drive them to Denver, they would drive them to Missoula, drive them to Seattle. And these are long trips, these are 12, 14, 16 hours. So I was flying the smaller aircraft at the time, and I said, Sharon, I'm your guy. I'm going to take care of those long-distance flights. And that's really how Dog Is My CoPilot and the long-distance transport really came to be. So in flying the small aircraft, I could put maybe 30 animals in there, or maybe 4 of the larger dogs. And again, we try to make it financially efficient so that we weren't throwing money away. So with the 206, we were flying, for each animal would cost us about $75 per animal per trip to transport them. But I've always been kind of a big dog kind of guy. And even though I've flown a lot of California Littles in the Missoula, by the hundreds actually, and the one program they haven't mentioned is the Critter Camp. Are you guys familiar with that? I mean, it's a wonderful program to set the hook early with these kids and set them up with a foster, and hopefully they'll be failed fosters, which we all cross our fingers that will occur. And that was fine, but I was flying one trip out of Merced, and we always try to put as many animals on board as we can, because every animal that's left behind is going to go back and be euthanized. So, unknown to me, the guy who was loading my aircraft put my seat fully forward so he could put more crates in the back. And then they stacked crates up in the right seat, in the co-pilot seat. And I was sitting there like this. Now, because we do long distance transports, my flights are typically 4 or 5 hours. And you can do a lot of Sudoku in that period of time. But I was just so miserable on that flight. And it's not just the dog farts, okay? Now, I deal with that. But that, you get used to that. But I was just absolutely cramped. And after that flight, my daughter, Taylor, who's the general counsel for Dog Is My CoPilot. Taylor?
Right here.
Yeah.
I'm right here, Dad.
Oh, there she is. Okay,
I'm videoing you.
my oldest daughter,
Hello.
she says, Dad, get a bigger airplane. I said, oh, I know. She said, Dad, just shut up and get the bigger airplane. And so we went out and bought a Cessna Caravan, and now we can fly. I've had 251 animals on board on one flight. And even though it costs twice as much to run this machine, it now costs at least half less per animal per transport. So we're transporting animals for $50 per animal per transport now. So it's much more efficient that way. And we can carry the big dogs. We can carry the large crates for the pilots out there. You know that flying and the aircraft is all about weight and balance. But really, that's not the issue when you're transporting dogs. It's a function of volume, the volume of the crates. The dogs have to have enough room to turn around, to stand up, and so the crates take up 3 times as much room as the size of the dog. So we've learned a lot of things through this. I've left animals in the wrong cities. Just amazing. I think we've got it pretty pat now. The most stressful time on the ground for me, most stressful time is when I'm on the ground trying to figure it out. Because when I was flying 20 or 30 dogs, you fly from one location to the next, drop off the dogs, go home, have a beer. Okay, that's good. But now I'm flying 150 or 200 dogs at a time. And no one facility can take that many dogs. So it means I'm working with 5 different groups or making 5 different stops. And believe me, when we're unloading, if you've ever been out the airport when I arrive with the caravan, it's like the clown car at the circus. The crates are just coming out like crazy. And you're going, is there ever going to be an end to these things? So I've had a long relationship with Humane Society of Western Montana. That was my very first flight out of Merced. I love working with the organization. It's just great. And so what's really interesting and what I've found is that, people will come up to me, they think, wow, it's the pilot, it's fun, it's exciting, it's sexy. Oh, that's just so great. But let me tell you what's not fun and not exciting and not sexy. It's what the volunteers and the employees at Humane Society of Western Montana have to deal with every single day when they go to work. They're mucking out the stalls, socializing these animals, bathing them, feeding them, walking them, suffering the occasional dog bite. I'm the center of attention tonight, but really, the heroes here are the people who are working in the facility and in the shelter here. So my involvement with these animals will last maybe 8 or 10 hours, depending on the length of the flight. And then when I offload those animals and go home and have my beer, their day is just starting, all right? And they've got a lot of dogs to deal with, and they're going to be hanging on to these dogs hopefully a short period of time, but sometimes days and weeks and months, because not all these dogs are in the shelter for some reason. We all have issues, every species, all right? Humans, the canines, and so finding the right home for these dogs is really important. So how many here have adopted a dog from Humane Society? Okay. All right, so that's the first step. And how many have fostered for, perfect. And how many here volunteer at Humane Society? I want to see every hand up the next time I'm here, all right? And of course, you're all donating. Because if you can't adopt or foster or volunteer, write a check. Pull out your credit card. The aircraft doesn't run on pixie dust. And they can't buy the dog food with pixie dust or pay for their electric bill. So you got to be part of the solution, don't be part of the problem. As was mentioned, this isn't a dog problem, this is a people problem. And you got to be part of the solution. So I can't tell you how flattered I am to be up here tonight. You guys, I'm preaching to the choir who already know the message. And sadly, the people who really need to hear the message aren't here tonight. And they're not within the sound of my voice. But if we get the word out and spay and neuter, and if we all are out of business within inside of 10 years, that would be awesome. Thank you for your time.
Dad, selfie. It's a video. It's the end of the video. Good job, Dad.